sometimes crisis does drive that change, though, right? I mean, you said that, like, the approval of the new HIV drugs was an example of how a system could work more efficiently and better.
Yeah. You can find, definitely can find some success stories. There are a number of success stories that are starting to take shape now with parts of the ecosystem self-organizing and operating at peak performance. These are very, very often they're driven by patients, not really a surprise. But we're seeing more and more of those happen. And with HIV was actually a fairly spectacular success story. If you look back to the 80s and 90s and could see, it was the patients, it was the patient advocacy groups that conveyed to the FDA in particular that they were willing to tolerate a higher degree of risk and uncertainty with new drugs in exchange for potentially getting access to life-saving drugs. And it was that kind of political cover that was provided by the patients to the regulators that allowed the FDA to actually develop a new first-ever accelerated approval pathway, which then allowed the companies to be willing to take more risk. And they were extraordinarily productive in developing some new drugs, which have decreased the death rate by over 85% now. But
in the U.S., you're talking about?
Correct. What's that?
In the U.S., the death rate. I mean, in places where they don't have access to the drugs, for example, it's
this is correct. But there was a global ecosystem that did mobilize in the story.